Hello. It's time for another 50 States of Strange. I had to make sure that you guys could at least see my face for the intro because I feel bad about the last video. But also, who even cares about my face? You want to see painting, right? Today's state is Washington, and I actually started the background of the painting before I filmed this because I did a TikTok live where I decided that I would start the painting and then just finish up with all the details with my 50 States of Strange episode. And I honestly kind of liked it. I feel like it gives me more room to add details in and not make a ridiculously long video. So let me know if you actually like if I start with it partially painted and like the basics down first, and then I can just do details. If not, if you like how I've been doing it, then just let me know, because I'm honestly down for either way, but I want to know which way you guys like better. Also, I kind of look like a hot mess because I am not just filming my 50 States of Strange this week. I am getting ready to go on a 2.5-week trip and bring my pups, and so I am going to also be filming a vlog about how I get ready to travel with them, because I take them like everywhere with me. And also I'm going to be bringing some painting stuff with me, some paranormal equipment with me, because I'm going to be doing a paranormal investigation. There's just a lot going on. So instead of just looking at my face anymore, let's just get right into the creepy and some painting. Alright, so as you can see, here's the bare bones of what I'm starting with. I got a mountain in there, got some trees, and yeah, I'm just gonna start adding in all the branches. And you can see my dog's toe beans in the back. Let's kick it off with some creatures first. Why not? If you are in Washington, you will probably see a Sasquatch, because Sasquatch sightings in the state of Washington is intense. Apparently, there is just so many, yet we somehow cannot seem to get a decent picture of one. But yeah, so keep your camera ready whenever you're traveling through Washington, because you might look out your window and see a Sasquatch running next to you. Who knows? And if you don't see a Sasquatch, wow. I think my brain might have just stopped working for a moment. Anyway, if you don't see a Sasquatch, you might want to try looking up, because UFOs are something else that seem to be seen quite a bit in the area. And one of the most famous sightings starts all the way back in 1947. A man named Kenneth Arnold said that he saw a shiny object flying over the top of the Cascades, and his story was actually incredibly detailed, and he was known to be a credible source. Like, he wasn't the town wacko or anything. And 2 weeks later, the U.S. Army actually reports a crashed flying saucer near Roswell, and then they later retract the statement. Funny how that works. So not only did Kenneth seem to have a pretty accurate story, but now the Army decides to redact anything to do with UFOs. Poor Kenneth. I believe him. Let me know in the comments if you guys believe in UFOs. I believe anything's possible, so... And if you've ever seen a UFO, please put in the comments below your story. I would love to hear your guys' stories of paranormal or UFO. I don't care what state you comment on, if it's the same state I'm talking about or not. Please, please give me stories. And if they're really good, I'll even include them in what I'm talking about for my painting. So yeah, please, please give me all the details. Now, UFOs aren't the only strange thing that's been seen from the Washington skies. There has been even weirder things falling from the sky before. A strange phenomenon known as the Oakville Blobs happened in August of 1994, and basically these gelatin-like blobs started to rain from the sky, and they rained from the sky 6 times over a 3-week period. And a lot of people started to actually become super sick, and people were complaining about being sick for about 2 months after this whole weird 3-week blob storm. And when they took it to test it, they found human white blood cells, but it wasn't from anything that they could pinpoint. It wasn't any waste from an airplane or anything. It has never been solved. I don't understand how you can literally find human white blood cells in a substance raining from the sky and just not decide to investigate until you for sure find the answer. That is so disturbing to me. For some reason, the only thing I can picture in my head is like a form of some kind of spontaneous combustion. But even then, like, why are all the white blood cells left over? I don't know. It's one of the weirdest things I have ever read. Like, I hope it never happens again, but at the same time, I kind of want it to happen again because I'm sure here almost 30 years later, we have way better testing equipment to figure out what the actual hell is in these blobs. I wonder if anybody who was there and witnessed it, like, saved any of the blob stuff in a jar somewhere. If they did, you should definitely get that stuff retested. I want to know what the heck it is. All right, enough of this guy, back down to the ground. If you are looking for a more paranormal type place to visit, well, a cemetery is obviously going to be at the top of the list for haunted places. Unfortunately, this specific area, though, has caused so much of a problem that it has been, like, hidden from the public and has, like, no trespassing. And apparently, it has been, like, covered up to the point where, like, it's hard for people to find it now. But if you can find it, this is really, really creepy. It's known as Maltby's 13 Steps to Hell. So basically, a rich family mausoleum has been visited by people over the years because what's cooler than visiting a rich family mausoleum in your free time? But supposedly, when you step onto the 13th step and touch the door at the bottom of the steps, you will have a glimpse of hell. And then people have been traumatized because supposedly people really did see hell when they did this, and it messed them up for a long time. And of course, people were like, what? No way. So then a bunch of people went and tried it, and they're like, oh my gosh. So that is now why the steps have been, like, covered up, and they try to keep people out there because they were sick of all these people showing up to literally be traumatized. So yeah, you will probably either not find it now, or you'll have a really hard time finding it. And if it still says no trespassing, just don't do it. Don't trespass. It's never good for anyone. As an investigator, it is always best to do everything by the rules. Promise ya. As you can see, I've added a little car in, and I haven't tried to paint a car in a long time. And so if this looks very childlike, my bad. Also, I was definitely trying to paint a somewhat specific car for a story that you're about to hear. And it's not looking like the car I want. It's giving me like station wagon vibes. It's going more for like a Volkswagen Beetle. Just didn't work out that way. But you know, we're just going to roll with it. And hopefully that gave you a little bit of a clue of who I'm going to be talking about for the serial killer portion of Washington, because how could I not include Ted Bundy? I know there is so much out there about him, like countless documentaries, books, actual full-on movies, all kinds of stuff. But, you know, no one can escape this guy because of just how truly freaking awful he was. And he was from Washington, so congratulations. We're talking about Ted Bundy. And before I start talking about the absolutely horrible things that he did, I will put a timestamp down below in the comments just to let you guys know when I'm done talking about it. That way, if you are either sick of hearing about Ted Bundy or it's just something that kind of is upsetting to hear, then you can skip right on ahead. I'm going to give like a bit of detail, but not too much detail, because I could go on and on and on about all the things that I have found on Ted Bundy, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Ted was born in Vermont, and then after his mother had him, she moved to Philadelphia where her parents were. And actually what ended up happening is his grandparents adopted him as their son and told him that his mother was his sister because his mother had actually had him without the father in the picture, and his grandparents were incredibly religious, and so, of course, they weren't okay with that being a smudge on their family name. Well, how'd that work out for you? After a few years, his sister mother moves him to Tacoma, Washington, and there she marries his stepfather, Johnny. And for the most part, he is like a normal kid, super smart, but then he starts showing like a fascination with knives. He will start stealing things because he just takes what he wants when he wants it. He doesn't have like any boundaries in terms of not touching other people's things. He also starts to peer into windows. So he's like already giving off some weird vibes, but he's so bright, you know. When he gets older, he attends the University of Washington, where he gets a degree in psychology in 1972. And while he's there, he meets a super wealthy, pretty young girl from California, and she's got it all. And he is so in love with her. And then they break up, and he is completely devastated. And it affects him long term to the point where, like, all of the victims resemble how she looked in some way. They were all students who were really pretty with long dark hair. So yeah, obviously left a lasting impression on him. They have never been able to for sure decipher exactly when he started doing his killings, but they just assume that it started in early 1974 because women started going missing in the Seattle area and up near Oregon. And then in the fall of 1974, he moves to Utah to attend law school, and women start disappearing there. And after a year, he gets pulled over by the police, and when they're searching his vehicle, they find a bunch of weird things like a crowbar and a face mask and handcuffs and rope, all super duper weird. So, of course, they start linking him to be doing much worse things than just robbing people, because at first they're like, oh, these are burglary tools. And then as more and more women go missing, they start to be like, this guy's a little weird. Then in 1975, a woman named Carol escapes getting kidnapped by Ted, and she's able to go to the police and let them know that he kidnapped her, and he was convicted and received a 1 to 15-year jail sentence. That is, I don't know who came up with that range, but 1 to 15 is kind of a big jump. Why is a year even an option? I don't get that. But while he's incarcerated, they start linking him to a bunch of women disappearing and murders, including a murder of a woman in Colorado. And he decides to act as his own lawyer in the case because, you know, he was in law school and he's got all the right words to say and he's got all the right moves because obviously he can get away with anything because he's been doing it all this time. And obviously he can because he then escapes from prison twice. First time he escapes from a courthouse library in Colorado for the charges that were for the woman that they found in Colorado. He escapes and gets captured 8 days later. So this guy gets away with it for over a week before he gets found again. And then he escapes from the ceiling of his cell because he dropped a crap ton of weight just so he can fit through a small opening to get out of there. And they didn't know that he was missing for 15 hours. So, of course, gets an amazing head start. This guy is just... Ted finally admits to killing 36 women in total. However, there is still a lot of speculation that that is not the only amount. A lot of people say that it could be closer to 100 even. And it wouldn't surprise me because look at how much he got away with. I mean, the man escaped prison multiple times and they couldn't even get a hold of him right away. And then on top of that, he went to multiple states, got girls to help him out because he seemed injured or he was just really nice and his car broke down. Like, the guy could literally sweet talk himself out of anything. And it just blows my mind. I don't know if it's just me, but like when I look at his eyes in photographs, like I'm that kind of person. I feel like I can read a lot from people's eyes. And looking at the man's eyes, you could just tell that there is something not right behind those peepers. So like, I don't know. But I'm also very paranoid because I read a lot of stuff about serial killers like this all the time. So I guess I just already have a wall put up. Whereas back then, a lot of people were a little bit more naive just about the evils of the world, I guess. But Ted lives the rest of his life in prison and dies in 1989 at Florida State Prison. Good riddance. As you can see, I hated how the top of my car looked, so I decided to throw a body on it. And here's my finished painting with a creepy Ted Bundy-like car and my little UFO in the background. Hee hee. I like it. I hope you guys liked today's episode. I really liked being able to throw some extra details in. At least in the future, I think I'm going to try to make my paintings a little bit more detailed, even if I have to like scrunch how quickly the time lapse goes just to make sure it's not super long. I don't know, I liked it. And I painted a car for the first time in a really long time and it did not turn out like utter crap, so I'm not going to complain. I will do my best to post an episode next week, but next week is going to be in like the beginning end of me arriving in Colorado, so I'm not gonna make any promises about that, but I promise you there will be a lot more content and variety in general. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Booba!